they had gone and arrested them, they at least could have screened them. They probably could have found a bunch of them that had done things other than just enter the country illegally. Things like stolen identities, Social Security fraud, voter fraud, and a laundry list of other crimes that I guarantee a good chunk of them had also committed, not just coming across the border illegally. So they probably could have found some people in there that were among that group that were within their, in quotes, arrest priorities. They didn't even bother to try. So, that's the news coming out of Washington, kind of regarding illegal immigration. On the flip side, though, we have other things happening with immigration. Mr. Rogers of Kentucky introduced a bill yesterday. Currently does not have a number yet, hasn't entered the rolls, but I've got a copy of the, it's an appropriations bill. It's a supplemental appropriations and rescissions bill. And it's targeting U.S. Customs and Border Protection salary and expenses. And it's GOP side bill that does appropriate a couple $100 million to the Border Patrol to deal with the current immigration crisis. Now, this is kind of going the right direction. The $3.7 billion that Obama and his cronies asked for was not exactly for the Border Patrol and Customs Enforcement and Homeland Security per se, not to do the border security job. It was more of an appropriation to deal with the health and welfare and maintenance of these detention camps where these kids are currently being held. And they, of course, do need some amount of money to take care of these kids. If you've seen the conditions that they're in, I mean, we're better than that. We should not be putting people in concentration camps. That's just the pure moral truth of being an American. Do the kids need to be sent back? I've said it numerous times. Yes. Does that mean that we need to, act like Himmler, and box them up in Dachau and Auschwitz in the meantime? No. So, consider that. We have to be a little bit more humane. Not that I'm a big fan of the Humane Act either. I like its intentions. John Cornyn and Henry Cuellar did a pretty good job with the intentions of that bill. The problem is there's fine print in there that isn't too copacetic because it actually grants the executive branch some of the powers and authorities that belong within the legislature and should not be given over to the executive branch. Kind of transfers the power and eliminates a little bit of the separation of powers and the co-equal branches of government by giving one branch too much. But that's notwithstanding that the heart and soul, the intentions of the Humane Act are a good idea. Well, this appropriations bill, compared to the $3.7 billion fiasco bill, or fiasco request, this one makes a little bit more sense. Well, folks, I need to actually read through this bill a little bit more intently, but I've kind of screened portions of it. And the bill, part of the background asks for an additional amount for salaries and expenses of $71 million to remain available until September 30th, which of course is the end of the fiscal year. Or actually, this is for 2015, not 2014. So this is the remainder of this fiscal year and then through the following fiscal year for FY15. But this is for necessary expenses to apprehend, transport, and provide temporary shelter associated with the significant rise in unaccompanied alien children and alien adults. Gotta love it, folks. The U.S. government still uses the term alien. It's not calling them undocumented blah blah blahs. but alien adults accompanied by an alien minor at the southwest border of the United States, including related activities to secure the border, disrupt transnational crime, and the necessary acquisition, construction, improvement, repair, and management of facilities, provided that not later than 30 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the Secretary of Homeland Security shall submit to the, got a page down here, committees on Appropriations of the House of Representatives and the Senate an obligation and quarterly expenditure plan for these funds, provided further that the Secretary shall provide to such committees quarterly updates on the expenditure of these funds. So basically, they're allocating more money directly to the Border Patrol so that they could do their jobs, which is kind of a smart thing, rather than giving money to people who have nothing to do with border security and saying this is so that you can spend more money on things that you can say are dealing with the issue and dealing with the problem, but are outside your real authority to deal with the problem. You know, like giving HHS a whole bunch of excess money, part of that $3.7 billion. It also goes in for an additional amount for salaries and expenses of $334 million to remain available until that same date, the end of fiscal year 15, for necessary expenses to respond to the significant rise, of which $262 million shall be for custody operations and $72 million shall be for transportation and removal. So, in other words, they're increasing money to the facilities, the detention facilities, so that they can deal with the excess, so that we're not treating these kids as though they are undesirable, shoved into a concentration camp like Nazi Germany did. So we're going to try to improve that, which improves, of course, the way people will view us in the world, and the kind of message about what kind of people we are when they go back home. Of course, the flip side of that is if we treat them like they're in concentration camps, maybe they go back home and say, "Don't go." But that sends a bad message about how we are and how we deal with things as Americans. That just is, it's not us. But then the $72 million, it goes directly for transportation removal. In translation, this money is directly earmarked to box them up and ship them home. So, there's that good little amount of money being, allocated for that. And then of course, this goes into and adds into things for like military personnel, an additional almost $12.5 million to remain available for necessary expenses related to the border, to pay for National Guard personnel and Air Force personnel to be able to provide assets to border security, as well as operation and maintenance of equipment that's necessary for that mission. So, there's some good stuff coming out of this bill. Some of it's directly to Border Patrol and Homeland Security, some to National Guard, and some to other agencies that actually can constitutionally and legally do something about the border control crisis. So that's a good thing, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll get voted on and passed at least by one house in Congress, if not both, because time's kind of running out. But hopefully, it gets voted on by before the 31st, before the close of business tomorrow, because after that ending session bell, the end of the day bell goes off tomorrow in the House and in the Senate, they're on a mandatory break. They're going out of session. They're adjourning for their summer adjournment, and they will restart the next session, or the next portion of the 113th session, I should say. They'll leave their recess. It terminates on or about the 4th of September. I have to double check. Maybe go and look and see if Jamie Dupree from out of Atlanta, from Atlanta Daily Constitution or Atlanta Journal Constitution, and WBS Radio out of Atlanta. He's a really good political reporter dealing with Congress and in D.C., and I have to see if he has the official calendar or a link to it over there. If I don't actually go on and look at the congressional sites, which y'all can do too, by the way. This isn't magic, folks. Those of us who dig up this information, we don't have some magic sources in a lot of cases that give us this stuff. Some of us do. We get it in what's called an embargo version. We get it a little bit early, a couple hours, or maybe sometimes a day or two early, but we can't say anything about it until the official release date. So we can have our articles written up, and as soon as they officially release, we can send and release it ourselves. But by and large, most of these reports and bills and documents and stuff are available through open source means, as we call it, on various websites and stuff, which of course you can do the work yourselves, or you can give us a little tip here and there in the tip jar, or go on some of the sponsors at some of the sites that we, the journalists, write on, and help to pay us for doing that work for you, which we're very happy to do. Evidently, we enjoy it, because otherwise we wouldn't do this for a living. Because dang sure ain't going to get rich doing it. Anyway, that's another little thing going on with the immigration, is that bill that the representative out of Kentucky, Rogers, the GOP kind of answer to immigration, or partial answer for now, a band-aid on the finances anyway. So, I don't want to hear this nobody's doing anything mumbo-jumbo. Speaking about the nobody's doing anything mumbo-jumbo and the lovely smoke screens and emotive diatribe and verbiage coming out of certain politicians. And this happens on both sides of the aisle, folks. So it's not just the left that does this. It's just funnier when the left does it. But we have a Democratic candidate, guy by the name of, I forget his first name, Brett. That's right, Brett Hulsey out of Wisconsin. He's running against Scott Walker. I think it's Scott Walker if he's running for election. If anyway, he's running for governor in Wisconsin, and he's currently a state-level senator in the state legislature there. And he decides he's going to go and try to take on, or try to convert, or try to sway the opinion of a Republican delegate at the GOP, at the state-level GOP convention. All right, folks. I know you're going to be hearing audio here, so I have to give you a little bit of a description. First of all, Halsey is dressed in a homemade uniform or costume that's made to look like a Confederate States of America military uniform from back during the Civil War. And he looks like a clown. There's no other way to put it. You can go over to BuzzPo, articles up over there, and you can see this for yourself and point and laugh, because the guy looks like, he looks like the Democratic Party mascot, and we all know what that is, right? It's called a jackass. I'm sorry, a donkey. Same thing. Well, he tries to convert this young lady because he thinks she's an easy mark. Why does he have the opinion that she must be an easy mark to talk to these issues and try to sway? Because of her skin color. And although he doesn't say it, it's obvious in the way he initially tries to address some of the issues. He immediately goes straight to racism as an issue. And she very quickly starts hitting him with left and right with facts, and then her opinion based on those facts, and her assessment of things and the way she sees the world because of those facts and because of her knowledge of history. And he tries to come back with what he claims are facts, but they're really empty. They're sound bites. They're talking points with no backing substance. And eventually realizes it's a losing battle. But listen to this. It's a little bit over 2 minutes long, almost 2.5 minutes long, and it's kind of interesting. And if you go over to BuzzPo again and click on the video there and watch it, some of the hand gestures and the look on Halsey's face as he very quickly makes his excuses to end the debate before it could really even get started are priceless and worth laughing at alone, because it's obvious that she handed him his butt very quickly. But listen.
State Representative and Democrat candidate for governor Brett Halsey threatened to hand out hoods that resembled those of the KKK at last weekend's Republican state convention, but instead he dressed in a homemade Confederate uniform and highlighted what he called a racist agenda. Here's one interaction between Halsey and a GOP delegate at the convention.
So I guess my question to you is, if you're giving them hoods, what would you give me?
Well, I'm not giving them hoods, but I just hope you would vote against this thing.
Well, I just wanted to make sure you understood how much I took offense at the whole giving them hoods, based on the fact that the history of the Klan comes from the Democrat Party.
But the problem is the Republican Party has now adopted the racist agenda.
No, that's not the.
Let me run down it for you. Racial profiling.
You don't have to ask me if I know what racial profiling is.
I know, but Governor Walker and I enacted a bill that stopped reporting of that.
How is this racial profiling?
No,
what is he doing?
What he did was Governor Doyle put in a bill that required police departments to report the race of their stops. Governor Walker, when they came in, they reversed that bill immediately.
But see, to me, that's the opposite is racial profiling. Because every time a police officer is recording someone's race, that means you're probably trying to put them in categories as to what it is. The Democratic Party the Democratic Party is the party that's constantly trying to put people on labels and in blocks and things like that.
We want to stop racism.
Not the other way around. No, you're not trying to stop racism. You try to keep racism going because your party is the party that tells black families that they don't know how to make choices to educate their children and that they have to stay in public education.
What the study shows, those kids who do the choice schools perform worse.
No, that's not
and
what
they're
studies
unaccountable.
show. Because see, what you're saying is because if you look at the education gap,
I got to talk to one of my colleagues.
Well, of course you do, because you don't want to hear the facts,
sir?
But that's okay.
Welcome to the Confederacy.
In that video clip, the interaction comes courtesy of the McGeever Institute for Public Policy. And again, we have the video over at BuzzPo for you to take a listen to. Or look at, actually watch the interactions. So, so interested in your comments and your thoughts. If somebody were to be calling in here, I'd graciously put them on to talk about it. But and the number to call in, by the way, folks, when we're live, is 520-226-8567. In the meantime, though, if you're listening to the podcast, please go ahead and leave comments at the bottom of the article over there, either the article containing the podcast or the article itself on BuzzPo, and let us know what you think about that little interchange there. I found it quite enlightening. That young lady definitely knows her stuff, and very glad she's actually made up her own mind and decided what her stance is going to be on things. And that's the way it should be, folks. Get all the facts and make up your own mind. Usually, not always, usually that means you're going to be on end up on the right side of the spectrum, so to speak. Not always, but at least you make up your own mind. From there, folks, I would love to segue into a little bit of news coming out of the military. First of all, folks, I know this is Wednesday, it's hump day. We should be a little bit happy to try to raise things up and raise up our spirits to coast us into the weekend so that we can get to the weekend and celebrate our prosperity. and all the stuff that we've done, as we pursue our happiness. But I've got some bad news. And this news comes out of Atlanta. I'm reading an article that's in Military Times that came from Kate Brumback out of the Associated Press here.